Before this video starts, yes, this is a 2K talk as it usually is on a Sunday, but before we started, I wanted to quickly promote something. I obviously do not get political on this channel, however, the events in Minnesota over the past few days, as well as all over the country, have obviously been horrific. And I wanted to use the albeit not that large platform that I have in order to do some good. There are going to be 3 links at the top of the description. The first link is to the George Floyd Memorial Fund. This is obviously a fund for George's family to cover both funeral costs as well as legal fees as they try to get justice for Floyd. The second link is to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is helping provide both supplies for protesters as well as legal coverage, as unfortunately there are many more cases of police brutality all over the country, and there are many unjust arrests being made. A good friend of mine just the other day had one of his friends get arrested for absolutely no reason. And then finally, there is a link to the Anti-Police Terror Foundation, which is a coalition trying to prevent from what happened to George Floyd from happening again. If you can donate, everything counts. Any little bit that you have can make this issue just a bit better. So if you're angry like me and you would like to see some changes made, this is a way to do it. And for those of you who are inevitably going to take issue with the fact that I am promoting these charities and you're going to be ranting in the comment section about the good cops and all the looting, save your fucking breath. I do not care. Your comment will not only not get a response, it's going to get deleted. If you have an issue, you can feel free to unsubscribe because I don't want your subscription anyways. I'd be happy to miss my goal of 100K by the end of 2020 if it means doing something a lot more fucking important than that. Again, if you would like to donate, those 3 links are going to be in the top of the description as well as the pinned comment. Justice for George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and let's get on with the topic of this video. Now that we've gotten past that unfortunately dark topic, let's talk about something a little more lighthearted. A global pandemic and how it's affecting the sport we love. That's pretty ironic, yeah. 2020 sucks ass. Like, it's almost comical how shitty this year has been, but let's get on with the topic. Last week, I did a video on whether or not the 2020 NBA Championship would have an asterisk because of the many weird circumstances of how the NBA is going to be returning, and whether or not those factors would make the championship kind of a dud and not really all that valuable to a legacy or anything like that. And if that championship would be given its proper credit. But today, I wanted to focus on how the NBA would actually return. I mentioned a few times in the video some of those circumstances, but today I wanted to put a focus on those circumstances. A few of the details are pretty much set in stone, such as it being played in Disneyland or World. I don't know what the difference is. In Orlando, they're going to try to create a bubble. The players will be staying in the hotels there and playing games in that area. I don't know the exact details of how the courts are going to be set up and all of that, but that's basically what's going to happen. However, there are many details that are not set in stone that many people are going to be voting on within the NBA, such as a playoff format, whether or not there will be regular season games, or if they should skip right to the playoffs, how many regular season games there should be, if the playoffs should be West versus East, or if since everybody's going to be in the same area, they should completely eliminate that, which, by the way, I would say that's a bad idea just because of the fact that there are 3 contenders and 2 of them are in the same conference. Doing that could lead to one team getting an advantage or disadvantage that they originally would not have, so these circumstances should not add a whole nother level of potential asterisks by doing that. But as you can tell from the title, I think the NBA needs to skip to the playoffs. As a matter of fact, I think it's pretty close to essential that they skip to the playoffs. And the reason for this is I genuinely do not think if the NBA has all 30 teams go to Orlando, I don't think they're taking this as seriously as they should if that's what they do. Because the bubble idea is great in theory, but it's going to be a motherfucker to keep intact. It's going to be a pain in the ass to maintain this. There are going to be multiple moving parts. This is not just the players, which, by the way, there are 15 of them per team at minimum 13. There is the staff, some of these trainers, some of the medical people, they're all essential. They're not people that can be left away for months of NBA action. The coaches are going to be there, and of course the families of the players will probably want to be able to see their family at some point in the month that this is going to be going on. The cameramen are going to need to be there. It can't all just be automated, I don't think. Security. There's going to be a lot of security. It's going to be a huge factor. There needs to be lots of security, both from the fact that there are going to be insane fans that try to break into this place, and also from the fact that one person can fuck this up by not abiding by the rules. That is the key thing here. It only takes one person. It takes just one person not doing things properly for all of this shit to go wrong. One camera guy, one member of a crew of the NBA, one trainer goes, I kind of want to go get pizza, goes to Domino's, the guy hands him the pizza, that guy has the virus, and now he comes back, he has the virus, and he interacts with some NBA players, those players play a game, those players spread that virus to other players, and it's just an endless cycle. This cannot be done with that many people. That's really the big thing here. Because of how little it takes for this shit to go wrong, you need to limit that liability as much as possible by limiting the amount of people that are going to be in your bubble. The NBA must skip straight to the playoffs, because by cutting out 14 teams, you are avoiding hundreds of extra people in the bubble. And if you can avoid that without serious consequences, which a few regular season games is not a serious consequence, then you must do that. Like, I don't even think it's really a question. I'm sorry to the New Orleans Pelicans and other teams that are on the cusp of the 8th seed, like the Portland Trail Blazers, San Antonio Spurs, but this is simply too big of a risk for teams that are not going to win a championship anyways. Sorry, but that's just the truth. And if you want to do this from a money perspective, say the NBA wants to come back because of the extra regular season revenue, they want to come back with those extra teams from the regular season revenue from those games being streamed, I promise you, you're going to end up making a lot more money when you don't have to shut down the season again. Because if they do this and the risk is that much higher, it's that much more likely that one person leaves, fucks this whole thing up for everybody. And because of that, if that happens, the NBA is not going to be able to keep going. They're going to have to shut it down again, and realistically, at that point, they're probably going to have to cancel. The least amount of people possible means the lowest chance of the NBA having to cancel the season again. But a couple extra 100 or dozens, depending on what they do, games is not going to be made up in revenue if because of those games you have to cancel again. So it is absolutely worthwhile money-wise to skip to the playoffs. And also, the fact that it's the playoffs is going to generate more excitement than some regular season games. Now, of course, there's going to be plenty of excitement because we haven't had basketball, and I think it's been over 2 months now. Time is slipping by, so I have no idea. But regardless, this is going to be good from a financial standpoint, but outside of the financial standpoint, human lives matter more than money. And even, like I said, from a money perspective, if there's an outbreak inside the bubble, they have to suspend the season again. But for the human life aspect, there are not only going to be players, there's staff, some of which I'm sure are going to be a lot older than the players. It's including coaches like Greg Popovich if they didn't skip to the playoffs, and Mike D'Antoni and other guys like that who are in their 60s and 70s. This isn't just a bunch of 20-year-olds at peak physical condition, and these players are also eventually going to be leaving. And if they come in contact with other people after there's an outbreak, there can definitely be loss of human life as a result of this, and I do not think that should be taken lightly. So there is the factor of health, there is potential death that could come from too many people being here, and then the money doesn't even make sense to have the regular season games back because the risk of involving hundreds of other people that are not necessary whatsoever just simply is not worth the extra revenue because of how big of a risk that is. It's not worth the Blazers getting the 8th seed. I'm sorry, Damian Lillard, but it's not worth it. Although I think he even said himself that he would not play. Like, it's not worth it at all. The NBA, if it's coming back, it needs to skip to the playoffs because there's just too much of a risk here. The minimum amount of people means the lowest chance of an outbreak happening inside the bubble, so that's what they need to do. There's the factor of health. The money doesn't make sense. This just simply is not worth the extra revenue from those games, or again, the New Orleans Pelicans or Portland Trail Blazers getting the 8th seed. It's just simply not worth it. If you think the Blazers not getting an 8th seed leads to an asterisk, well, good for you, but I'd rather have that than the season just canceled outright and the playoffs not happening at all, because that would be a massive what if in NBA history that I really don't want to see happen. So those links that I mentioned at the start of this video are once again going to be in the description and in the pinned comment. These are all great causes, so do some good in the world if you have the money to do so. If not, if you can, try sharing these groups. That makes a difference too. Anything you can do, I encourage it, and I really appreciate it, and the world really appreciates it. But that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.